All right, so Shalom Yasharal, Salaki for the start back up. Anyway, not that important to discuss. This is Matthew 19 in the Hebrew first, and then we'll go into the English. So Matthew chapter 19 and verse 1. And it reads, let me know when you have it, brother. You have a Wa Yahya. That's what you have, right?
Yeah, wow.
Okay. Wa Yahya ka Kowath Yahawashai Ladabar Af Hadabar Yum Aoha Wayasai Man Ha Hagalayo Waya Ain Waya Amar O Yaham Hala'a Quara Thum Kaya Aisha Bara Ashya Quaba Aisha a thumb. 5. Waya Amar Ail Kun Ya Izab Ayash Af Abiyawa Wa'af Amawa Wada Bak Ba Shafwa Waha Yawa Shanyaham Labashar Akhad 6 Kan Ayanum Iwad Shanyam Kaya Bashar Akhad Lakan Af Asharak Khabar Ha'alahayam O Yapara Yad Nawa Ha'adam 7 Waya Amarwa O Yawa Walama Za Tazawa Masha Lathaf Laha Sapar Karaya Thaf Wala Sha Lakha 8 Waya Amar O Yaham Ba'ibhor Kwashya Labab Kam Hanayak Lakam Masha La Shalak Af Nashyakam Ak Mara Ash La'a Hayatha Kaka Wa'anya Amar Lakam Hamashalak Af Ashafwa Balafya Ail Dabar Zanawaf Wala Kwak Lawa Akharaf Na'ap Hawa'a Wala Wahala Kwak Af Hagara Washav Na'ap Hawa'a 10 Waya Amarwa Oyawa Hatha Lama Hatha Lama Yadyam Kaka Hawa'a Aina Yan Ayash Wa Shathwa O Tawab Lakwa Khath Asha 11 Waya Amar Al Yaham La'a Yawa Ko Adam Quabo Af Hadabar Hazar Kaya Oha Ashara Nathan Ha Laham Lahaba Yan 12 Yash Sarah Yasyam Ashara nawaladwa, ko mabatan amam wa yam salak wa yash sara yasyam hama sarasyam il yadya adam wa yash sara yasyam ashara saraswa af itazamam lama ain malakwaf ha ma salak ha shemayim maya shayawako la Quabo ya Quabo 13 az yaba yaawa al yawa ya ladyam lama ain yashyam il yaham af yadyawa waya thapa lo il yaham waya ga irwa bum hathalama yadyam 14 wa wahawa Yahawashai Amar Ana Yakwa Laya Ladyam Wa'o Yathama Nai Wam Ma Bawa'a Oya Kaya Laola Malak Hawath Shemayim 15 where Sham Af Yadyawa Il Yaham wa I Salat Waya I Bar Masham 16 Wahana wa Yash na Gash Al Yawa Waya Amar Rabia Ha Tawab Aya Za Ha Tawab Ashara Aishanwa Laquanwath Khayaya I will Lamyam 17 Waya Amar Al Ma Thakwara Niya Tawab Ayan Tawab Kaya Akhad Ha'arat Salak Ha'alahayim Wa Kapatazka Labawa'a O Khayayam Shema Af Hama Tazawat 18 Waya Amar Al Yawa Ma Hana Waya Amar Yahawashai Alha Han La'a Tharatzak La'a Thana'ap La'a Thaganab La'a Tha'aina Aid Shakur 19 sounds familiar, sounds like the Ten Commandments. Kabad Af Abiyaka wa Af Amaka wa Ahabtha Lara'ika Kam Waka 20 Waya Amar Yawa Ha Bakhawar Af Ko Oha Shamarthia Mama I Warrior Wama Khasarafia Iwa 21 Waya Amar Yahabashai Yawa Kapatazka Lahaya Wath Shalom Laka Makar Af Rakash Ka Wathan La'ain Yiyam Wahaya Laka Awa Rat Salak Awa Tazar Ma Shemayim Wa Shawab Ha Lam Wa Lak Karya 22 Wa Yahaya Ka Shamai Haba Kawar Af Ha Dabar Hazar Wa Yako Masham Na'itazab Kaya Hayawa Lawa Nakasyam Rabiam 23 Waya Amar Yahawashai Al Thamalayad Yawa Aman Amar Anya Lakam Posha la Aishiyar Labawa'a O Malakwath Ha Shemaim 24. Wa'ai Anya Ashar Lakam Kaya Nakwo Laga Mo La'ai Bar Dirak Nakwab Hamakat Maba'a Aishiyar O Malakwath Ha'alahayim 25. Wa Thalamayad Yam Kashama'in Za'ath Shathwa Mamwa Ma'ad Waya Marwa Maya Apwa or Apawa rather Yawako La Hawashai 26. Waya Bat Bum Yahawashai Waya Amar Laham Ma Bunyam Adam sons of men Yapala Hadabar Abo Ma Ha Alahayim La'a Yapa La Ko Dabar 27. Waya Ain Pasarwas Waya Amar Olyawa Han Anaknawa Izab Nawa Af Hako Wanalak Akaryaka Ma Yahya Lanawa 28. Waya Amar Yahawashai Al Yaham Ya Salak Aman Amar Anya Lakam Atam Hahalakyam Akarya Bahatha Khadash Ha Bara Ya'a Ka'ashara Yishab Bun Ha Adam Isle Kasa Kabawadwa Tha Shabwa Gum Atham Isle Shanyam Aishara Kasawath La Shapat Af Shanyam Aishara Shabatya Yashar Allah 29. Wako Ayash Ashara Izab Af Bathyawa Wa'ath Akyawa Wa'ath Akyawath Yawa Wa'ath Abiyawa Wa'ath Amawa Wa'ath Ashathwa Wa'ath Banyawa Wa'ath Shadwathyawa Lama'ain Shamya Hawa'a Yakwak Ma or Ma'a Sha'aryam Wa Khayaya Iwa Lamyam Yayarash 30. Wa Lam Rabyam Man Hara Ashwanayam Ashara Yahayawa Wakar Wanyam Wa Man Ha'a Kar Wanyam Yahayawa Ra'ash Wanyam. So now let's read Matthew chapter 19 in the English now. So let's see, 15, 37, 15. So this is Matthew chapter 19 and verse 1. It reads, "And it came to pass that when Jesus or Yahushua finished these sayings, he departed from Galilee and came into the coast of Judea beyond Jordan. And great multitudes followed him, and he healed them there." So Christ is still doing his healing as he did during the previous portions of his ministry, right? So with 19 and 2, you can just write down what we already read before, Matthew 4 and 24. So part of the spiritual gifts that Christ utilized, and showed us that we could do the same was this spiritual gifts. So it says in Matthew 4:24, and his fame went throughout all Syria, and they brought unto him all sick people that were taken with diverse diseases and torments, and those which were possessed with devils, and those which were lunatic, those which had the palsy, and he healed them. So Christ is able to heal spiritual illness, mental illness, physical illness.
Yeah, Matthew 4:22.
24. So Christ could heal all types of illness. Like I said, whether it's spiritual, mental, physical, didn't matter. He could do it, and he did it. So yeah, Matthew 4:24, you can link with 19 and 2.
Right.
So let's continue on now. So reading on, it says, sorry, verse 3, the Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? So now, you know, when it came to the Pharisees, oftentimes when they asked questions, it wasn't really to get understanding, but to try to disprove Christ, to show him that he was a charlatan, or that he just didn't know, right? Because people followed him and they were like, oh, he can't be that big a deal. There's got to be something that he's up to.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievers, right?
Right. So we can discredit him by asking him something that he can't answer, right? Or that he's going to make a mistake in as far as his answer, so that the people won't follow him anymore because they felt threatened by his presence, which they shouldn't have. If anything, they should look forward to it. Mm-hmm. As some Pharisees did, but the majority didn't. Verse 4, and he answered and said unto them, have you not read that he which made them in the beginning made them male and female? Right? So with verse 4, we know that's what that was already discussed. You read it in Genesis chapter 1. It tells when he first created man, or mankind, that he made them male and female. Male and female created he them. When you look at the overview story, because with Genesis chapter 1, it goes into how he made everybody, but then Genesis 2, some people think it's a stumbling block, but always going into is how he made a particular man named Adam, breathing the breath of life into him. That wasn't everybody. It's talking about a particular man that he made, Adam. Because we know, as you're going through the story of Genesis, after Adam and Eve marry, have kids, right? One kills the other, then they have a third son, or I should say even before that. The one that killed his brother, Cain, killed Abel. Cain goes and marries. If they're the only people, how is he going to marry anybody? Right? So showing you there were other people.
They used to tell lies about that back in the day. Come up when you had a baby, they had a woman, the man was born with a woman, and he married his sister, and all this stuff. I used to always ask that question.
Yeah.
I don't know. When he had a man, he had a woman. He just said say nothing about the woman. And yeah, Cain married his sister.
Because people don't know when they read Genesis how much of it is literal and how much is allegory. Even the fact that he made her from his rib, that means something. Right? It's shown that they were kindred, meaning they were of the same nation. Because we said it throughout the scriptures, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. Right? Talking about we're family or we're related. Right? So that's all that meant as far as Adam and Eve coming out of the same family.
So when he took Adam, I don't want to go off topic, though. I ask you another time.
Okay. So Genesis chapter 1 in verse 27 to link with 19 and 4. Genesis 1:27, it says, so power created man in his own image. In the image of power created he him. Male and female created he them. So he already made the man and woman at this point. But now later on in Genesis chapter 2, it says this, going back to Matthew 19 and 5. It says, and said, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. So verse 5, we know that links with Genesis 2 and 24, going into how he made a particular man and his wife, breathing the breath of life into them, which we know does not represent respiration, but it's talking about what? The inspiration of the Most High.
Genesis 2 and 24.
Breathing the law, statutes, and commandments into him. That's the valley of dry bones, right? Them bones gonna walk around, like we used to sing in church, right? It says, breathe upon these slain that they may live. And that breath represents the law, because we know without the law, we're dead. So when you read here a little and there a little with understanding, you can make sense of what's going on in Genesis. But most folks don't know how to explain the Bible with other parts of the Bible. They got to create other books, come up with stuff off the top of their head and go, this is what it means. When the Bible explains itself.
Right.
Genesis 19:4.
19 and 5 is Genesis 2 and 24, which reads, just to show that Christ is going right back to what was written before, which the Pharisees should already know. Genesis 2 and 24, it says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and they shall cleave unto his wife. They shall be one flesh. But if you go back, way back when into your Genesis notes, we went into all the things here in Genesis, but I'm only pulling the necessary verses for what Yahushua is talking about here. So it says back in Matthew 19, I'm back in verse 6 now, it says, wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore power have joined together, let not man put asunder. Right? So Christ is answering them, yeah, you shouldn't just put away for anything. If anything, when you marry a woman, you should stay together with her indefinitely. Right? That should be the ideal. Right? That you not put her away all your days. That's why he said, with power joined together, let not man put asunder. They said unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorce and put her away? Which is true. A good question. So with verse 7, that's in the scriptures as well. That's Deuteronomy chapter 24 that they're going back to here. So they're asking the question, they're going back to the record, right? Well, we don't know how sincere the question is as far as, why they're asking it, but they're asking it nonetheless. And Christ is going to deal with the answer, even though he knew their hearts, but he would still answer, not just for them, everybody that was listening, so they could be edified. People who were sincere, that might have been around in earshot. So multi-purpose as far as how and why he responded to those that were gainsayers that didn't believe him. So yeah, Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter. Deuteronomy 24. Verse 1 down to 4. That's the whole section. When a man have taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes because he had found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and send her out of his house. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. And if the latter husband hate her, and write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and sendeth her out of his house, or if the latter husband die, which took her to be his wife, so if they divorce, if she marries again and he divorces her, or if he dies and she becomes a widow, it says, verse 4, her former husband, which had sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife. After that, she is defiled, for that is abomination before Yahweh. Right. So if you're going to divorce, let that be final. Just the same way as you came together to let it be final, let the divorce be final. And thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which Yahweh thy power giveth thee for an inheritance. Right? So that's what they're referring to in Deuteronomy 24. But now let's see Yahushua response to this. So going back to Matthew 19. What's that?
They didn't define uncleanness. They just said if she's found unclean, but they didn't say what unclean meant. Did they? Well, that was defined early in that chapter, early in the chapter.
think my side caption says matter of nakedness. So I think this is more so, doesn't seem like it's referring to like literal uncleanness, even though it could be, but when you talk about spiritual uncleanness, that's like dealing with some, wickedness.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as, your literal uncleanness, of course, there's many examples of that.
Right.
Because, to be speaking literal, I mean, how can she help that? And if that were the case, well, there'd be conditions behind her marriage. She would probably be trying to get some kind of help for it, right? Like the woman in Christ's time, right? They had the running issue.
Mm-hmm.
So it appears as though, from the context, it's talking about something that's more dealing with spiritual uncleanness as opposed to, what do you call it? Physical uncleanness.
We'll do the church.
Because you have both. It's like you had, what do you call it? Circumcised in the foreskin of your heart.
Right.
And you had actual circumcision. Even back in the Old Testament, you have both. They understood both. So let's go back to Matthew 19. Let's read on.
You're 1980, right?
Yeah.
1980.
Right.
So reading on, it says in verse 8, he said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffer you to put away your wives. But from the beginning, it was not so. Right? So he's going into the reasoning behind why, Moses added that. Because the most I knew about the hardness of our hearts, as far as being humble to his righteousness, as far as how to go about keeping the law.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why that was added. He says from the beginning that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
So now Christ is going to say a wise way to go about doing it when it comes to marriage. He says, and I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication,
Mm-hmm.
and shall marry another, committed adultery. Whoso married her, which is put away, doeth commit adultery. Right? Yeah. So he said, look, just so that it's not just, you just marrying and divorcing for any old reason, which, we see is very popular today.
Mm-hmm. He
said, so that you're not just, going haywire. Let it only be for the cause of fornication, which is what?
Okay.
If she, in this case, is committing some kind of unlawful sexual act with someone else.
Okay.
Well, isn't that adultery though? Why would that just be fornication? Wouldn't that be adultery?
That's just one example. There's many other examples of fornication besides adultery.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So he's covering more bases with his answer.
So fornication than just adultery.
Right. And it says, as a man, you want to find out if she put herself away for a reason besides that. He wants to find out from that woman, okay, are you divorced from other man? What were the situation? What was the situation around it? Mm-hmm. I don't want to get with you, and then now we're both in trouble again, right? Mm-hmm. You for the second time, me for the first time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you just want to make sure that that divorce was said and done, because you see that in the world, right? People aren't happy in a relationship for one reason or another, and then they go and they philander instead of settling that business and saying, okay, this isn't working out, let's go our separate ways. They go and get into another relationship while still in a previous relationship that wasn't working out. Mm-hmm. And that's a bad recipe, because that thing is like it can trickle down, it can repeat itself again in the new relationship that you start without ending the old one. But reading on, it says in verse 10, his disciples said unto him, if the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. Right? So they said, well, if that's the case, then you should marry at all, right? Because I guess what Christ said was too hard for them, right? Only for fornication, right? Oh, that's a tough pill to swallow, right? It shouldn't be, but that's where Israel's at as far as their state of mind. It says in verse 11 now, but he said unto them, so taking what they said literally and responding to that, not so much the lack of wisdom behind the statement, but as far as what they're saying, not marrying, Christ is going to speak to that in these next couple of verses. But he said unto them, all men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. Right? So as far as a man not marrying at all, it says that only certain men can receive this. Right? He's going to explain what he means in verse 12. He says, for there are some eunuchs, right? If you know, a eunuch in traditional sense is like what? A man who oftentimes has been castrated, right? For one reason or another, he committed a crime or whatnot, and then you see that he may be put in charge of certain of the king's affairs, right? Like you see eunuchs during the Babylonian Empire, you definitely see them during the Roman Empire, Persian Empire, right? Different empires, you'll see them use eunuchs. And if the king had a harem, right? You often that's the more popular use you see of the eunuch, where you have the man who's looks over the king's harem, right? Where he can worry about him keeping them safe and not worry about him, getting touchy-feely, right, with his women, because he doesn't have the equipment to do anything anyway. He's already been castrated. So it's like, yeah, we can entrust him to watch over the harem. Like I said, that's more of what you'll see in a popular sense. Anytime you see a eunuch, you'll always see him attached to a harem, but that wasn't always the role that a eunuch played. But he definitely did something, or did some sort of work within the government of whatever empire it was.
Mm-hmm.
As I read on, he's going to explain those different eunuchs. But before I do, you had a hand up?
Well, what is the eunuch? What is the eunuch?
He's like a servant of the king, but usually they're castrated.
Castrated means what?
Your jaw cut off.
Yeah, right. Their genitals are cut off.
Your jaw shot.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you about Harlem. That mean more than one woman?
Harem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a group of women that belong to the king?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how you said Harlem.
Yeah,
What?
Bad pronunciation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what a eunuch is. Mm-hmm. Usually. Let me let Christ speak. He says, for there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb, right? Mm-hmm. Some men just born lame, right? They just don't have the ability, or they might be missing parts, right?
Right.
Or infertile for some reason or another. And there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men. That's when we hear eunuch, we usually think about that, right? Where the man, they castrate them, right? And now check this out, though. And there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuch for the kingdom of heaven's sake. Now, this is more going into them literally cutting themselves. It just means that what? But kingdom of heaven's sake, because they know they can put more of their time and effort into serving the Lord in righteousness. Mm-hmm. Because with marriage, there's a duty that comes with that as well, right? Yeah. As far as time-wise, resource-wise, emotional-wise, right? That a man needs to take time with his wife, right? To encourage her, to spend time with her, etc., and so forth. Mm-hmm. So he says, there's some that made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake.
Would that come from, would the priest get that from them?
Right. But once again, what did he say in verse 11? All men can't receive the same. Mm-hmm. What you have with the priest of the church, quote unquote Catholic Church, is these men can't receive that same, but they still take on the role of priesthood. Mm-hmm. And at least as far as they deem it, priesthood, not the real priesthood of the scriptures. Mm-hmm. But like it tells you in Corinthians, if a man can't contain himself, if he can't abide in himself, if he has that desire to be with a woman, let him marry, right? Mm-hmm. It says better to marry than to burn, mm-hmm. right? So you have a lot of the men in the Catholic Church, they have a desire to marry but can't, and then it manifests itself in other ways. Mm-hmm. Plus, them being the wicked, a lot of times with Esau, we know that he's the bottom of Sodom and Gomorrah anyway. But he uses that office, that vehicle, right, to sodomize, the boys, the altar boys in the Catholic Church.
Got nothing to do with wanting to be with a woman either. Mm-hmm. Like you said, he just Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right, but with these guys, it's like anything goes, right? Guys and girls, old and young. Mm-hmm. Why just people? You know, that's another discussion. But all in all, we see these three types of eunuchs that Christ is describing here. Those men who were just impotent, right? Those men who were made eunuchs due to, the government at that time. And, sometimes I think they even did it willingly, not just because they committed a crime, but usually it was, because of that. It says, and then there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake, meaning they still physically have, everything they need, but they just pledge themselves to serving the Lord fully, right? Mm-hmm. To totally please the Lord, as opposed to marrying, have children, etc., and so forth. Now, Christ said all men cannot receive the same. So let's link that with that verse 11, because Paul talks about this as well. You can go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Sure.
Corinthians chapter 7.
Yeah, you can link 1 Corinthians chapter 7. And it reads, the 7 verses 1 and 2. Which says, now concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, it is not good for a man, for it's good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Right? So to avoid fornication, right? I mean, you just having casual sex, right, with any old body, right? Let people become married, right? So that they can be part of that relationship. Not only not the only cause for relationship, but at least they can satisfy that urge through that person that they become one with. But now jumping down, he says in verse 7, but I would that all men were even as I myself. So Paul, you read about him, he made himself a eunuch for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He will be an example of what Christ is talking about in Matthew. This all links up with 19:11. So he said, I would that all men were even as I myself, but every man hath his proper gift of God, one after this manner, and another after that. I say, therefore, unto the unmarried and widows, it is good for them that they abide even as I, right? So it's good for them to just be with the Most High and be alone if they don't have anyone. It says in verse 9, but if they cannot contain, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. Right? So if a man or woman can be alone and just be with the Lord, right, in spirit, and not require that physical companionship, then let them so do. But if they can't, then marry, right? It's not wrong. Nothing wrong with that. The problem comes in is when you start sinning. 7, I read down to 9. That's what's key.
In those verses, is he also supporting monogamous relationship there? By saying you can't have more than one woman?
That's not even the issue. He's just talking about marriage in general.
But it don't appear that he's supporting a monogamous relationship, though?
He's just talking about between a man and a woman. Like as far as them getting married. Like more than one, that's not even really important here. He's just talking about how the relationship should be between just that man and that woman.
Oh, okay.
Regardless if there's other women, because if there is, he's going to have to deal with them in the same token. Okay. It's just talking about the dynamic between a man and a woman, as far as a man being alone, serving the Lord, right? As opposed to him being with one woman, let alone others, but just one, being married to one, at least. Marriage in general, and what comes with that, the responsibilities associated. So there's plenty else in this chapter, but I'm just going to read those key things just so we understand what Christ is talking about here in Matthew 19. But you got something you want to bring out?
Yeah, so it was about the marriage. Mm-hmm. So even though Moses said that, right? What Moses said, it was more so a concession because of hard-headedness. but some people use it as a law.
Mhm.
Yahushua is making it clear that, divorce is something that the Most High just he's against, right? But because of hard-headedness, there's a concession, right? Just like we see, I'm going to show a scripture,
Mhm.
right? In Exodus 13 and 17, sometimes the Most High take a route because of our hard-headedness or our weakness, right? But it's not something that he put as a law.
Exodus what?
Exodus 13, 17.
Mhm. You're saying that when you say that, you're saying that he turned his back on the law
I knew that was coming.
just because of the
No,
hardness of the heart?
No, he ain't turned his back. It's a concession because of our weakness.
What you mean? Explain it.
A concession, something that is ideal, right? It makes it less than the ideal way to do things because of our hard-headed, because of our lack of understanding. But he ain't said it that as a law that we have to follow as a law. That's why he says not every man can accept this. That's why Yahushua says not every man can accept this.
Let me word it this way. It's not that it's not a law, but I think what correct me if I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. It's not that it's not a law. It's just a matter of should you exercise this law? While you have the law here, should it come to this? Kind of like the law we talk about, what the brothers always bring up when we will fight the other nations, and you take you kill the man, take the wives and the wives who are now widows and children's captive. It goes into if you want to take them as a wife, you have to cut off their hair, clip their nails, and all that stuff, right? The brothers look at that and they go, yeah, see, this is what I seek after. But it's like, no, it's just putting that in there as like, what was the word you use?
Concession.
Concession, right? So it's like a law that's there if you so choose to do this. It's not necessarily meaning something that you have to do. You know what I mean? It's not always going to be necessarily something that's going to be like expedient for you to do, even though it's lawful. You know what I mean? You might just have them as servants, or you might just, sell them to somebody else and just use the profits to build up something else you're working on. It doesn't mean that each time you take women captives, you got to make them wives. And men didn't always do that themselves. Just like men, they had the option to take other wives and the responsibility with it. Sometimes they had the resources and still didn't do it because it wasn't expedient for them for whatever reason. Maybe they just didn't want to do it.
Right.
So this isn't expedient to just run to divorce for any old cause, any old reason. That's what Christ was trying to nip in the bud and hone in on how Genesis, that law overweighs the law of divorce, right? So they're still together, but just one just weighs out the other. Kind of like with the commandments, right? Love the Most High and love your neighbor. Those are weighted in higher importance than other commandments, but they're still all there. So when he says it's not a law, I want to make sure it's not coming out like, oh, it's not a law to keep, but it's just a law to apply if it comes to it.
More so,
But it's not something that you run to like, yeah, I'm going to marry so that I can run to this and divorce.
more so as a regulation. More so as a regulation. If it comes to the last resort.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
To your last resort, because
Exactly.
any matter can be fixed. Sometimes people run out of patience.
Right. That's where the fruits of the spirit come in.
Take patience.
Right. But sometimes somebody has the borderline. That's where my patient,
Right.
ends, and I have to use that because of I can't be going too far.
Mhm.
Right. So the scripture that I was gonna make is Exodus 13, 17.
Mhm. You got any more for that?
Huh? Exodus 13, 17.
That's it.
Yeah.
Shouldn't say anymore.
Yeah, Exodus 13, 17. Let me read it real fast.
Mhm.
Exodus 13 and verse 17.
This links with verse 8, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Exodus 13, 17 says, Okay, it says 13:17 reads, and it came to pass
Mhm.
when Pharaoh had let the people go,
Mhm.
that the Most High led them not through the way of the land of the Philistines,
Mhm.
although that was near, for God said, let peradventure the people repent when they see war and they return to Egypt.
Mhm.
So the Most High could have easily have us go near the Philistines, but because of our weakness, we might, run back. He made us go the other way.
Right.
Right.
They wouldn't do that.
Right. So this is sometimes we, the Most High knows our weakness,
Mhm.
and there's something that's there as a last result.
Mhm.
But you use a measure that that's conducive to how we behave, how we would behave.
Come.
Very true. It is.
Interesting example on concession. Right. So we understand. It says one law outweighs the other
Mhm.
as far as importance, as far as what should be ventured first.
Right. What is only necessary.
Just like we read last chapter, right? Two people have an issue. The hope is you don't get to. You got to bring the person to the church. While it's there, your hope is in that situation, we can resolve it just with the two people talking it out, right? Resolving it one to another. That's the hope
Right.
each time, if possible. But if not, then we escalate 2 or 3 witnesses. Sometimes that may have to happen. But the idea is for that not to get that far if you can help it. Same idea as far as you have all the laws, but then certain ones are weighed against the others. Hold this one first. And if it comes to that, then go to escalate to that.
So, now, yeah, you go divorce in a way, what you have to go through? What? An American way, yeah.
No. According to the law, it was something that was actually done between families. Even the papers that were written up, you read in Tobit, they had it was the parents of both the husband and the wife. They'll come together and put together a statement, a paper of marriage, and then that would be the thing that they would hold on to. So it was something that was it was more involved. It wasn't just oh guys, he's a girl. No, they start dating and all that. It was more like a family arrangement type thing. Right.
Good reason for divorce to happen, right?
Because when you have inheritance, like when we were in the land, it was like there was a lot more factors that went into it, as opposed to like being in captivity. It's not the same. It was definitely more of an arrangement between families and inheritances and things of that nature. So it was a bit more involved.
Right.
But it was done between those families, and then they put together contracts. And if they had issue with each other for one reason or another, with that, they might escalate to the priest. But usually, it was something that was done within the family. They could handle it themselves.
Yeah, that's why he said he become one, right? They become one. It's a family relationship.
Right.
It's not they become one person or one individual.
Right. Well, they become one flesh. That's why, like, we read in the Leviticus, right, about the laws of nakedness, when they were saying you're not supposed to cover your near kin's nakedness, or the spouses of your near kin. Like, you're not supposed to see your father's nakedness or your father's wife's nakedness. It says that is his nakedness. Why does it say it's his nakedness? You're looking at your father's wife, not her, not him. It calls it in the law his nakedness because they're one flesh. Right? They're supposed to be one body in that point, right? And ideally one spirit, but that wasn't always the case. We're not dealing with the truth.
I mean,
both of us.
one body in the sense of how they come together, but not as a physical. They become one.
Right, but what I'm saying is, but that's why they worded it that way, the one flesh, because they were supposed to be together, like unified. Not only in physically when they come together, but then in spirit, ideally. That's where you get mother-in-law, father-in-law. right? Because that your spouse, those aren't your parents, but they become your parents when you marry your spouse. That's why they say your mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law, brother-in-law when it pertains to your family, because according to the law, you guys are together. Now that's like your extended family. So it's in there in the wording, but you go back to the scriptures, you get the basis. You go, oh, okay, this is why it's done like this. Because so many things in the law revolve around nationality and inheritance. Without that context, oftentimes it kind of becomes lost in the sauce. You kind of just go off of what we learn in society and religion.
Right. Let me read that one scripture.
Okay.
It's 1 Samuel 12. First Samuel 12, verse 12. I'm looking at looking for that scripture about.
What's it say? How's it worded?
Yeah, that's not what it is.
How's it worded? I may know.
It's okay. I got it. 2 Samuel.
Okay.
2 Samuel chapter 5. Because when I read this, it's also showing how we are flesh, but we are one people. We are family, right? It says, 2 Samuel 5:1 says, Then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron, and spake, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh.
So it means that we are brothers.
Right. We are brethren, we are family.
Yeah, this is part of the. You use this one for the Adam and Eve breakdown. When it says that when he took her out of his rib, is dealing with the same thing.
Right.
Why, you have put Samuel in 2 Samuel?
No, he corrected himself, just 2 Samuel.
Oh, okay. I got both of them.
So cross out 1 Samuel, and just go to 2 Samuel, 5 and 1.
5 and 12.
5 and 1.
5 and 12.
No, 5 and 1, like you said.
5 and 1.
Yep. Khan, that was it, Khan?
Yeah.
Okay. That links with 19 and 8 of Matthew.
19 and 8.
Yeah. So yeah, nationality and inheritance are essential to pretty much everything in the scriptures. The table of nations ties into everything. It's why we're at now, because of what our foreparents did before. So let's go back to Matthew. Matthew chapter 19. Let's continue.
Reading 19 what now? 19 with Matthew.
And verse 9, I think. I'll read it again, just to recap and then continue. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, 1 Corinthians 19:11.
Yeah, I said 8 because we just linked something with 8.
I'll put it down.
Because the last verse we read links with verse 8. Sorry. So we get the 3 eunuchs again as a review for verse 12. Some eunuchs which were born from their mother's womb, right, being born that way. Others that were eunuchs, made eunuchs of men, as far as castration. And then there were eunuchs that made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake, and they just elected not to marry, and had it within their will to do so, and they could just be dedicated solely to the Lord. Because it's funny, because with what you said when you mentioned the priests that do that, even read about the priests of the Most High, even they could marry. The sons of Aaron, they could marry. It goes into the conditions. She had to be an Israelite. She couldn't know any other man. She couldn't have been like divorced or something. So she could only know that priest. But we'll get into that big two or three Sabbaths from now. We go back to Leviticus because we'll read that chapter where it goes into all those details. As far as our priests, just think about it. If the priest couldn't marry, there would be no priesthood, because the sons of Aaron are the ones that could be the priests. So if they can't marry, that's a wrap. You got Aaron and that's it, right? He can't take a wife. So just think about that. So it was a family thing, right? Like we were talking about earlier. So they had to marry. Typically they married Israelite women, but not necessarily all the time daughters of the priests, because even Aaron himself, his wife was a Juditess. Right. She was, I think, sister to Nahshon, who was he was like the prince of Judah. So she was like out of that royal bloodline. Like she was an ancestor to David when you go back. You look at the family line. She was part of it. She was related to Nahshon, who was the prince over the tribe of Judah at that time, who was part of that line that came from Judah leading up to David. So she bore the first generation of priests. I think her name was Elisheba. Yeah. She gave birth to Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. But let's go back to Matthew 19. Let's continue. This is verse 13 now. Matthew 19:13. Then there were brought unto him little children, that he should put his hands on them and pray, and his disciples rebuked them. But Yahushua answered, suffer little children, forbid them not to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. Right? So they got, mad saying, oh, these kids aren't serious, right? We got to go out here and teach the adults, right? That can raise the kids, So I guess they might have saw it as a nuisance, but he said, no, it's okay. Let them come unto me. Let me pray for them, heal them, right? They thought they were just, acting up. They wanted to see, oh, I want to see Yahushua, But he said, no, let them come too. But to link with 13 to 15, that section, you can link that because this same instance is also in Mark chapter 10. Mark chapter 10, verses 13 to 16. Once again, Mark chapter 10, verses 13 to 16. And also you can read about it in Luke. Luke chapter 18, verses 15 down to 17. So both places you'll see this same instance. 19:13 down to 15. Some of your Bibles might have indent marks. Usually they're on point, but they'll kind of show like one complete section, and then when the next indentation mark comes, that's like a new section. Not all the time, but it tends to be. Like a certain story, if you will. So yeah, once again, to link with Matthew 19:13 to 15. Just write them down. Mark 10. (13 to 16). And Luke 18, verses 15 to 17. suffer the little kids. Allow them. So Matthew 19 in verse here we go. Verse 16. Matthew 19 and 16 says, and behold, one came and said unto him, good master, what good things shall I do that I might have eternal life? Right? So he gives them the honorary title, right? Good master. But then he asks, what shall I do to obtain eternal life? Reading on, he said unto him, why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. Right? So you call me good master. He said, why callest thou me good? Only one good, that's the Heavenly Father himself. Right? So Christ, in usual fashion, always giving props, yikes, can't talk. Always giving props to the Most High above all. Right? It says, but if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. Right? So he said, if you're going to want to live or enter into life, keep the commandments of the Most High. Right? Follow his law. Right? To link with 19 and 17. We already read this before in Leviticus, right? We just read this. Leviticus chapter 18. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 4 and 5. Leviticus 18 and 4 reads, you shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances to walk therein. I am Yahweh your power. Verse 5. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am Yahweh. See that? So,
What's the chapter?
Leviticus 18, verses 4 and 5. So we live by the law. We die by sin. In case you're wondering at this point. Here's proof.
That's what we're 16.
Verse 17. I guess you can link it with 16 and 17, but mainly with the last part of 17 where it says, if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. This is good too for people that want to say, oh, that law's done away with, man. That law is old and rusty. What's Christ talking? And what's Christ talking about? He didn't say keep the new commandments. They want to say, oh, it's Christ's new commandment that we're supposed to keep. No, he said keep the commandments.
Did you say something about the old letter of the law?
Did he?
Somewhere it says that in the Bible, didn't it?
Oh, okay. Really? Tell us about it, brother. So Leviticus, whenever you're ready, Leviticus chapter 18, verse 4 and 5, to link with 19 and 17, sorry. So reading on Matthew 19 and 18, he said unto him, which? So, which commandments, right?
It says Romans 7 and 6. It says, but now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held.
Okay. So what's that mean?
Hmm?
What's that? You're gonna explain that? He's gonna read that so people can go, oh, okay. Oh.
It says we're delivered from the law.
You said you were telling me something about the old law. That's the thing.
So what's that mean?
It says delivered from the law.
Means
So what does that mean?
that from the law, that's how we are delivered.
I'm asking.
Help.
Yeah, what it means.
I'm not explaining.
Stand before the council.
You guys. No, I'm seriously though. Like, make the connection, please.
No, because you were saying, he said, oh, the old law is the old law dead. The Old Testament and all that stuff is old.
Someone could be listening for the first time now and they hear that and they go, yeah, exactly. They got no idea. I just put the statement out there, but I didn't go into proving it. But you pulled the verse. That's what I'm saying.
No,
Just give some understanding behind the verse. That's all.
I said some people might pull this and says it delivered from the law. That being dead, wherein we are held, that we should serve in newness of spirit and not in the oldness of the letter.
So what does that mean? The oldness of the letter. What's that mean?
Yeah, the Old Testament.
The Old Testament. What's that mean?
What is that?
No, I'm saying somebody can say that, you know.
What is that wrong?
Right. So, but what's the understanding behind it? That's what I'm saying. For the person who's ignorant, how would you explain that to them? There's a simple way to explain it. I'm wondering if you can explain it, or if you're going to explain it, if you're willing to explain it. So if someone comes to you with that, what you just said, how would you explain that to them? That's what I'm asking.
I would say Matthew 5:17. That is not dead.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to quote verses. If you want, that's great, but you don't have to. I'm just saying, how would you explain it? You just explain it with the wisdom of the scriptures. What that means.
I would just go to Matthew 5:18. Matthew 5:18 and 19.
And summarize those for us. What does that mean?
Yeah, it says it's not done away with. The law is not done away with.
The old law is not done away with. The way the law is not done away with. It still is.
Yes, I'm off the hot seat.
No,
Can I? Yeah, no, but let me just say this. A better way to explain that, if you're gonna pull a verse, just say we're not dealing with the law by itself. We're not dealing with the letter of the law by itself. We're dealing with the spirit of the law, which deals with grace and truth. Just so you to say.
which is another way of saying that we're dealing with the law, but with the law we've already been condemned, but because of Christ, we are forgiven of the law.
Exactly. Forgiven of the law when we transgress it.
Right, when we break the law.
That's it.
And we're still dealing with the law, but we righteous. Yeah, mercy. There you go.
Right. And a verse I would like to use would be in that same chapter, verse 14 and 15, which says, "You're not under the law, but under grace."
What is that, Matthew?
No, Romans. But then it says, "What then shall we sin? It's because we're not under law, but under grace." God forbid.
Matthew, Romans 14 and 15.
Sorry, it's actually chapter 6. Romans 6, 14 and 15. But we're not talking about that now. Let's continue on in Matthew. But you understand what I'm getting at, brother?
Yeah.
Just if you're gonna pull it, just explain it. That's all. Or just say what people say, and then we just keep it rolling. Don't throw a verse out there and then don't explain it, because for folks that don't know, never heard that verse, they're gonna hear that and they're gonna get tripped up over it.
I was tripped up on that, brother. You know, that's been clarified. I understand a little bit better.
So now he asked them which, verse 18, it says, Jesus said, "Thou shalt do no murder," which is thou shalt not kill, right? Because you know the context there when it says kill is talking about murdering, even in the Hebrew, right? You have a word for murder and kill, and the word where it says thou shalt not kill is the same word for murder, right? Which is a ratazak, which I think with mawak, that's like not mawak, mawaf. That's the word you usually see for kill or execute. That's not the word there. We can kill or execute for wrongdoing, but we can't murder. So thou shalt do no murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, right? These are all part of the 10, right? 10 commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness. So you know with verse 18, obviously you can link up Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20, like 12, verse 12 down to about 16. Mm-hmm. Exodus 20 from 12 down to 16. We won't get them, but we already know we should know what they say. That's what we did in the prayers this morning. Exodus chapter 20, verses 12 to 16. Because usually in the prayers, we start from verse 3 and read down, right? When we read the 10 Commandments. Right? Come. So reading on, it says in verse 19, honor thy father and thy mother, which is also part of Exodus 20. I think that's in verse 16, right? It says, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So now he switches and goes back to Leviticus 19 and 18. And for verse 19, that's what that links with. The Matthew 19 and 19, that links with Leviticus 19 and 18, which we just read not too long ago in the Sabbath service. You should not bear a grudge against any ruler of that people. But thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Right? That's in Leviticus 19 and 18, which you're going to link with verse 19 here. Then it says in verse 20, the young man said unto him, all these things have I kept from my youth up. What lack I yet? Right? So the young man, he's feeling pretty confident, right? He's like, okay, do this, do that, do that. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Okay, good to go. Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 18 links up with Matthew 19 and 19. 19:18. It's kind of like
19 chapter Leviticus 18.
The 18th verse, which is the second great commandment, right? That we read about last time. That Christ puts on a high pedestal, right? Even James calls it the royal law. Love thy neighbor as thyself. So it's like the way to the kingdom, if you can apply that and do it right. So it says, he says, what lack I yet? Verse 21, Yahushua said unto him, if thou wilt be perfect, go and sell that thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. Right? So Christ doing all things, he knew this man's story. So he said, okay, if thou be perfect, to even come into the higher level than what you've already done, go and sell what thou hast, give to the poor, right? Those that are without. He says, you shall have treasure in heaven. Come and follow me. So you have those spiritual riches now. You carry that out, because that's what? Showing brotherly kindness. That's showing charity, right? To your brother. And you're showing faith because you trust the Lord is going to help them out, right? Through you giving to them, because you are a person of means. But now let's see the young brother's response. It says in verse 22, when the young man heard what he said, or heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. So, Christ, he could always pick out the needful thing for any person to hear, based on their soul, their spirit, what their strengths are, and what their weaknesses are, those areas that might need some improving, given their nature and their nurture.
We just can't love this money.
Yeah, and you never know. It might have been some work behind getting that money, but you never know. Maybe not. So it's like, oh, I got to give this up to get the kingdom. Oh man. But now Christ is going to teach a lesson based on his exchange with this young man. 23. Then said Yahushua unto his disciples, verily or truly I say unto you, that a rich man shall hardly enter into the kingdom of heaven. Now notice he didn't say never, he said hardly. So we always read that to say, not to say that a rich man can't, but partly it's going to be difficult, right? Because the things that he had, it very, very well, very possibly can get in the way. And when you have those things, it's hard for you, or it can be more difficult for you to call upon the Lord, right? Remember, we were taught this before in Proverbs. So link with 23, let's get that lesson. And then we'll read also scripture in the New Testament that deals with this as well. So link this with verse 23. Remember this? Let's go to Proverbs real quick, chapter 30. You know the one I want. So Proverbs chapter 30. No, he's right. I want to start in 7. So Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 7. It's a good thing always to wait for the Kahan, whoever's teaching, to verify. Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 7, it says, 2 things have I required of thee. Deny me them not before I die. So he's about to ask a wise thing of the Lord. This man, Agur, the son of Jacob, who wrote this. You read above. Verse 8, remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. So he's asking the Lord to don't give him poverty, don't give him riches, but give him food convenient for him based on his soul. Right? Because he knows himself, but not like how the Most High knows him. So he said, give me the food that's convenient for me, that I might stay in you. He's going to go into what can happen on both extremes. Verse 9, lest I be full. So when you're rich, you're full. It says, and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Right? Because when you got the riches and wealth and money in the bank, like that song, Money in the Bank, they were singing back in the day. Not even that far back, but you get all this money. It's difficult to call upon the Lord because it's like, for what? I got everything I need. I can buy my own salvation at this point on a physical level, right? I got lawyers, doctors on retainer, right? I can go anywhere I want, right? I just show my face or show my little, my badge or show my black card or whatever they got now. Swipe the card, boom. I'm gone. Got my private jet, So that's what can happen. You can be lifted up by riches if you're not careful. That's why he said, lest I be fool and deny thee and say, who is the Lord or who is Yahweh? And on the flip side, when you're poor, it can happen too. Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my power in vain, right? So to live a poor, destitute life can be rough, trying to, scratch just to survive, right? And led to harm others in the process, as far as you may see it. And then you could take the Most High's name in vain because of that, because of your bitter life that you have. So it's a wise request he asks of the Lord here, right? To put him somewhere in between where he's okay, he's taken care of, but at the same time, he's always reminded that the Most High takes care of all, and that his money is just of the Lord. It's not, oh, it's me. Right. I did this, right? I'm saving this. I'm helping you out. That's what people who have, when they help others, that's what they do, right? That's that pride of life coming in. If it weren't for me, where would you be at? Right? It really is because of the Lord that all of us are anywhere, whether we be high up or down low, have a lot or have a little. The Most High gives and takes away. That goes for the wicked. Most High's reason for the wicked having what they had too. If it weren't for him, they wouldn't have anything. It's because of him they've been deceived to think that their method of getting those things is useful, is profitable. It's a great deception that they're under. It's going to come back to bite them hard. But also to link with the verse, 1 Timothy chapter 6. Check this out. Just to show that it's not evil to have riches, and it's not impossible to obtain the kingdom. Remember Joseph of Arimathea, right? Right. Remember Joseph of Arimathea. He was a wealthy man. He was a disciple of Christ. He was even the one who was able to secure his burial, because that costs money, just like today, right? Someone dies, it's like families looking at each other like, did so-and-so have an insurance plan? Oh, no? Oh, man, not me. I'm not going to cover the funeral costs, right?
Yeah.
We had to do something together. You know, if the elder person didn't have some kind of policy in place to cover their their burial and things like that.
They can't no more.
Right. So that's what the discussion becomes. But now Joseph, he had it. He was good for it, and he made sure to have the resources handy to provide for Christ's burial. So it's not let's to show you that just because you have money doesn't mean that you can't be saved. Right. But money is not your salvation. That's where people get it twisted. Check out what Paul says to Timothy. Very wise. He says, 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 17 down to 19. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 17 reads, charge them that are rich in this world that they be not high-minded. Once again, your riches can make you high-minded, make you proud, right? Yeah, I got money in the bank, How many O's in my account,
2019,
1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 17 down to 19.
oh,
That they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, right? So no gambling bets or futures, as they say, right, in the stock arena. Yeah, we're betting on this asset going up in value, right? It says, but in the living power, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. So that they trust in that, they trust in the living power. They give us all of us our necessity, right? To enjoy the food, the clothing, the shelter, the warmth. Verse 18, it says that they do good, that they be rich in good works. So this is what the riches that Most High is talking about, right? Spiritual riches, which is nothing but the fruits of the Spirit. Being rich in your faith, being rich in your patience, being rich in your diligence, being rich in your charity, right? Your brotherly kindness, your humility, your meekness, right? We know the fruits. Peter talks about them. Paul talks about them, right? This is what makes us rich in the sight of the Most High Christ and the angels. On this level, right? People, companies, they're prided off their portfolio, right? Their net worth. They go, oh, look at this. They've had increased earnings for 4 or 5 years in a row. Yeah, they're rich. But in the heavenly realm, as far as the souls of men and women, those fruits of the Spirit and how increased you are in those, that's what sets you apart. That's where the angels look at and they go, wow, look at this brother's soul. Look at this sister's soul over here. Right? Now they're rich. Right? So that's how our riches are measured. And the physical aspect, the physical riches that come, that's just an add-on. That's just, dressing, window dressing. But it's not what it's really about. That's why Solomon was dealt with on such a high level, because in essence, he asked for spiritual riches. He asked for understanding to govern so great a people. And the Most High said, yeah, because you asked for the spiritual riches over physical, I want to give you all the things that most men will want, right? I'll give you long life. I'll give you, carnal riches, wealth, dominion. Your enemies won't try to take your life. I'll put them at peace with you. I'll give you all those things because you asked for that which matters most. I think that's a grand lesson we can learn from Solomon before, when he was young, just starting off as king.
And then when we look at it, everything is of the Most High. Everything is for the Most High, belongs to the Most High, and the fullness thereof, the earth and the fullness thereof. And when you look at Solomon, we always go back to Solomon. When we look at people who have riches, and it's good that we have the richest man, in our nation, as an example, that when you do the right thing, having riches is not a wicked thing. But we don't have anybody near in this time that use riches in a proper way. So we kind of like shun having riches. So the thing is, would you rather be rich and still in the faith, or you rather be poor and still in the faith? Which one would you rather?
Rich in the faith, shoot.
Right. So because being that, you'll be able to have what? If you're rich in the school and in the faith, now you'll be able to have a better school.
Yeah.
Right? You'll be able to help brothers and sisters
right.
financially when they have a problem.
Right. Come.
So that's why, you know, when we advocate, you know, riches, yes, we point out the wickedness of people who have riches in the world, but you would rather want to be in the truth and be rich.
Right.
The
Absolutely.
whole
Yeah.
Absolutely. Rich in the world, richer in the truth.
Right.
Absolutely.
But this guy didn't want riches in the world because he thought that would corrupt him, right?
Mm-hmm.
That verse before you read, the verse before we read.
In Proverbs, yeah.
Right. So everyone knows his limit.
Right.
So he knew his limit. So he asked the Most High according to what he believed he can handle.
Right.
If he knows that he's gonna get out of line, he ain't gonna ask the Most High to make him rich because he knows where he's gonna lead him to.
Right.
So that's wise.
Exactly.
Yeah, because he knew what would happen to him if he had that money. He might get 10 go-go girls or something and let them dance for him or something. You never know which one the person.
Yeah, maybe
is.
based on his experience,
Yeah.
he sees what can happen to him and you don't want to end up that way.
That's just not my idea. I don't want you to take that.
I'm gonna buy a field. I'm gonna buy some gold. You know, every man has his the thing he desires. Right?
Right. He didn't want to be poor either, though.
Yeah.
He wanted to be in the middle, like.
Yeah.
Just
Food
enough
convenient for him,
for him to call all guys.
which is deep because he's even speaking to even his own ignorance of himself. Because even he, what I gather from that too, what's kind of implied is like, what's convenient for me, it may not, you know, I may not even know exactly, but I know you do.
Right.
But whatever it is that keeps me with you, whatever that amount is,
Right.
I'm good with it.
Mm-hmm.
Could be high up there, not super rich, but you know, means.
Well, God knows.
And based on his prayer, he's acknowledging that the Most High knows better than he even knows himself.
Right.
So that's Torah. That's good.
You can't go wrong doing that. Number 24. Oh.
And then one more before we continue on. This is Proverbs, and then we'll go back to Matthew. So Proverbs chapter 13. In verse 7. Proverbs 13 and 7, which reads, there is that maketh himself rich, yet have nothing. There is that maketh himself poor, yet have great riches. Right? So going to two different mind states and what they seek. There is one that maketh himself rich, yet have nothing. So that person, he's going after the carnal riches. But spiritually, but this person, spiritually, they don't have it. The faith, the patience, the humility. Yet there is one that maketh himself poor, yet have great riches. Like we're talking about before. This man knows, okay, I know my limit, or I want to humble myself to come down low, so that I can gain great riches, right? As far as the spiritual riches, because it's much easier to gain those when you don't have as much, when you are constantly compelled to call upon the Lord, right? And we should be compelled to call upon the Lord at all times. But we know where the flesh is, we tend to do it a lot more when we're down and out, right? Setting up prayers every day, every moment, you know, oh, Lord, please help me through this day. Help me through this day so that I can, you know, get some food in my stomach, right? You know, keep this roof over my head, right? Clothes on my back. Whereas you're rich, it's easy to forget about prayer because it's like, I'm blessed. Hey, I am God. Look at all the things I'm doing for everybody else, forgetting that God gave it to you. I'm God, right? High-minded. So being, you know, having power makes you a power, yes, but at the same time, acknowledge the powers that gave you power to begin with. Don't let that power go to your head. So let's go back to Matthew 19. Let's continue. So reading on, it says, and again, I say unto you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. So remember, you look in the Zondervan, you can look it up. If you just go on Google Images and put in eye of a needle. It's not talking about like a pin, like a needle pin that you use to sew. It's not talking about that. The eye of the needle is talking about, it's like an entranceway into the gates of a city. but it's not that high up. And you see the picture of it. So with a camel, usually they have like a burden on top. So for those smaller entrances, they can't go in. You get certain entrances into the gates of the city. Sometimes you have the big doors for like the big commerce that was coming in, they could fit in. But there were smaller entrances used for other purposes. You tend to not want to bring a camel with a burden on top through that. It's going to be a tough time getting it in there. You know, work it this way, work it that way. You got to take stuff off the top and then carry it yourself. You know. So when it talks about the eye of a needle, that's what it's talking about. When you look it up in the way the old cities were designed, where all the action took place, not so much in center city, but in the gates, the outskirts, where the transit, where the business and traffic came in and out. So it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of power. When his disciples heard it, they were exceeding amazed, saying, "Who then can be saved?" So once again, it's just like, oh, ye little faith, right?
Right, because everybody, I won't say everybody, but most people desire is to be well off, whether we want to believe it or not. You know, so who can be saved? Most people desire to be well off. You don't want to be poor, right? Right. So most people desire to be well off. So who can be saved? Right. So you got to know, how you're gonna do it. Teach us how to do it, because I want the money.
Even for them, right? Knowing the truth, because it's like they did before, increase our faith. Because to forgive our brother that much, that ain't happening. For us, okay, we can learn it, but I know for our people out there, it's gonna be tough. Same for this. It's almost gonna increase our faith. Same kind of attitude.
They wanted what this man had.
Yeah.
Man, if he can't make it, I want to be rich like him anyway. I guess I'm doomed.
So verse 26, Yahushua answers, of course, as he always does. Well, not always. Well, he does, but then it's a matter of you understand the answer. But Yahushua beheld them and said unto them, with men this is impossible, but with power all things are possible. Right? So if you're just dealing with man's frame of mind, that's not spiritually grounded.
Right.
It can't happen.
Because to become rich and stay in the faith is hard task.
Yeah.
And you have to be very meticulous on how you do things to actually balance, being spiritual with the, accumulate wealth.
Right.
And if you don't have a spiritual guidance to help you in your planning, it's not easy to manage.
Right.
So that's why I said it's hard for a rich man. It doesn't say it can't happen, but it's hard.
It's hard for me.
But he has everything he needs.
He has everything he needs in terms of wealth, and what else does he want? What else does he need? Spiritual riches, which is the number one. But sometimes if he's not careful, he's dealing with so many people, so many things that he got to do, and how you got to deal with them, and and at the same time keep his spirituality intact. So rather than that, it's better to focus on the Most High and sacrifice these things. So that's much easier.
Yeah.
You got me thinking about that song. I think it's from the 90s. I keep hearing it in my head since we're talking about this. I want money, lots and lots of money. I wanna be rich. That was the whole song. I remember people just like that song came on. Everybody was like, "Yeah, I wanna be rich." I think it was like New Jack Swing, like early 90s.
Even the people who profess, man, rich people do it secretly. They want to be well off. They may not display it. Sometimes it's a form of jealousy too.
Yeah.
Expressing a form of jealousy because they don't have it.
At least with the OJ song, it was more grounded. The For the Love of Money song, that was like going into the truth behind it, what the wrong that it could cause you to do or lead you to. That song was more grounded, but the song I'm talking about is more of a celebration. And I just remember how happy everybody would get when that song come on. Like, yes, I want to be rich. I'll hit the lotto, hit the lottery, yes.
Yeah, that's why you see a lot of people hit the lottery, right? A lot of people play the lottery.
Oh, and we'll spend half hour to an hour hours talking about, oh, what I would do
Right.
if I hit out of. You spend all this time talking about what you're gonna do with your money.
And then these people,
Woo.
you see a lot of them. See, these people, these rich people,
Mhm.
you know, they don't give us nothing, you know. But you try to play the lottery just to become rich, though, you know. You gotta, you know what I mean? It's a check and balance. Right?
Oh God. Yeah, this is its own class, right? Its own discussion. Keep this one going.
I know, it's been some years back. He was alcoholic.
Be rich.
He was very alcoholic, just alcoholic. When she hit the lottery, and he was all the way out to, she had a check coming every 6 months. But she must have been too much, because she passed away. She didn't make it.
There's a lot of people.
She had too much, you know what I mean? I mean, she gave a big party. Had a big party and everything, everybody came in.
That money
A couple of weeks later, man, he's gone, man, have a funeral for him.
I think it was it Cat Williams, some comedian. He was going into that on the flip side. He said,
Cat Williams?
I think it might have been him. He said, people don't realize being broke is their salvation. He said, a lot of folks, if they were to get money right now, whatever they're doing right now, getting that 40 ounce from the local, spot, they can only buy but so much because they got that check coming in from the government. They can only buy but so much, whatever they get on that little card. They said, get that person money, they'll go right back to the store, drink it up, smoke it up, shoot it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like being broke is a person's salvation sometimes, because it'll just enable whatever poor habits they already had once they get the money. Like this, there might be more to his death, but this he's like an electronic producer guy. This guy named Avicii, I think his name is. They're talking about him. He just passed away a couple days ago, and they said that he lived he was a young guy too, like maybe late 20s. He was saying how he'd been real successful collaborating with different artists and making a whole lot of money. And he said he had to slow down because he was throwing big parties, DJing parties, drinking, doing all types of stuff. And he said it started to take a toll on his health, even as a young man. He said he slowed down a little bit, and he didn't party as much. He stopped touring and just did music for people. But then I guess it wasn't enough. Maybe too little, too late. But, that's what happens. That's what can happen with the success that he had. Like anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But there might be more to the story. Like I said, it just happened a couple days ago. Right. So Philippians chapter 4, 11 to 13, you can link with 1926. Philippians chapter 4, verses 12 to 13. So Philippians chapter 4, verse 11 to 13. Philippians chapter 4, 11 to 13. It reads, not that I speak in respect of want or lack, but I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. So Paul is going to tell you learn to be content, right? To have that joy, that peace of mind, regardless of whatever state he's in. Verse 12. I know both how to be abased, meaning brought down low, poor, and I know how to abound. I mean, you have a lot, much to your name. Everywhere and in all things, I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. Verse 13, I can do all things through Christ, or Mashiach, which strengtheneth me. Right? So that's the key. Same thing that Christ is saying, right? Men, it's impossible. With the Most High, all is possible. Right? Paul had the same, had the right understanding too. What he says along the same lines what the guy said in Proverbs, right? He sought that convenient food, so he said, okay, let me make sure that I keep Christ regardless, whether I have a lot or whether I have a little. We always talk about the rag to riches story, but the scriptures are full of so many riches to rag stories. Which we don't talk about as much. Someone who came from a lot, but then walked away from it for the sake of the kingdom, for the sake of righteousness. Like Paul, being, Pharisee, top of the line as far as, that's like upper echelon. But then for Christ's sake, he gave all that up. Or even like Moses, for example, grew up in Pharaoh's house, right? All that wealth, but then for the sake of the people, walked away. came away from. I mean, the circumstance kind of led him away, but the second half of his life was totally different from the first half of his life. I should say the second third of his life was totally different from the first third of his life. Moses from 1 to 40, one way, versus from 40 to 80 became, a humble shepherd, right? With Jethro and his daughters, right?
Right.
That was the next 40 years of his life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So very different from, being in Pharaoh's house,
Right, very different.
And in this case also, the transition may not have been so harsh for him because it's from one to the next.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the responsibility that he had to over the nation, to follow, to keep the nation intact, following the scriptures.
Right.
It was heavy enough where he did not have time to focus on other things than that. Focus on riches and raising cattle, a lot of land he got to look after.
Right.
So he had to focus totally on that, and sometimes that's a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. That's what he had to do.
Right. So in all that, he was putting deposits in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He was rich, but not in the physical form of the world, but he was making deposits in the heavenly realm.
Mm.
Right. So that's making deposits. It's like in a bank.
Mm-hmm.
Over here, like I forgot the scripture where it says, "Put not your treasure in heaven where moth." It's like when you have a lot of riches, you go to where do you go? You go to the bank to deposit, right?
Right.
So that's where you put your treasure, right? Your safe deposit box or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
right? He said, put your treasure in my bank,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my bank is an invisible bank, but in that bank you see that physical riches, and you get attached to it. But put money in my bank.
Mm-hmm.
And the bank is with all the things that you acquire,
Mm-hmm.
the teachings and things like that. Just do the work. But whenever I give you gifts, knowing that you are making deposits up there.
Mm-hmm.
Over there, nobody can get to it. Worse and nothing can decay. Teachers cannot come and get it.
IRS.
Right? IRS cannot come and seize it. The bank cannot, charge you with overdraft fees,
Mm-hmm.
and all kinds of fees that they might have to dilute your money.
Mm-hmm.
You put it in the safe deposit bank up there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not easy for everyone to understand because in this world you have to have that big account where you deposit a lot of cash and you get see.
What's it? You go to the machine, do your little balance, see a little number come up.
Mm-hmm.
Money in the bank. You feel good. You're like, let me do my balance real quick. $80,000. You're like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Come.
You see something missing from your life.
Mm-hmm.
Something can be missing from your life. A lot of people that had look at Prince. He had name.
Oh, he had those.
He had plenty more.
Well, they said that
He was messing with drugs.
yeah, they said they gave him something else besides the drug that he's supposed to have.
Yeah.
Well, they said he was straight.
Yeah. Unless we knew the man was there, it's gonna be tough with that one. I say all types of stuff about the rock stars, and movie stars. But your brother's points are duly noted as far as you need more than just the riches.
I was reading up in Rick James when he died. He was worth about $35 million.
Mm-hmm.
Had 3 homes.
Okay.
And when he passed away, they found 9 different drugs in his system.
Mm-hmm.
Not any of them actually contributed to his death, but that was found in
That
his
was found in the
system.
system.
He had 9 different drugs in his system.
Right? Because he's looking for that peace. That peace of mind. That peace of mind cannot be found in the world.
Right.
Nose candy. So right. So the link with that verse too, Luke chapter 1:37. Sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but we need to finish up. Luke chapter 1 and verse 37, where it says, "With power, nothing shall be impossible." That's something else. Yeah, peace can't be found through carnal things. But let's finish in Matthew 19 and verse 27. It says, Then Peter said unto him, Behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. Which shall we have therefore? Right? So Peter said, Okay, I hear you. So I'm going to take the challenge. Right? We're going to take the challenge. Forsake the carnal things that most men trust in. So now what will we obtain doing this? Right? Because the leader always has to have some kind of reward, right? You just follow me for naught because I sound nice. What am I going to get for following you? Right? Following your path. So Christ is going to make it very clear what's going to be still bestowed upon his 12 disciples. What shall we have therefore? Yahweh shall say unto them, Verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory. So going into when he comes back again, which this hasn't happened yet, ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Like that. So his 12 disciples are going to sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So he said, for you, forsaking all and following me, you're going to have a great reward in the kingdom to come. You're going to have a high position, a high authority in the kingdom. You know, this is one of many things we read about when it comes to the government that's going to be in the kingdom. We know Christ is going to, sit on the throne, obviously. You're going to have David there. He's going to be a prince there as well. You're going to have the 12 disciples there. They're going to be on their 12 thrones. And of course, we read about the 144,000. They're going to be there as well. The 12,000, each of the 12 tribes of Israel. You know, we know they're going to be a part of that body, of that ruling body that's going to be in the earth. So he's speaking on them as far as the role that they're going to play in the kingdom. So sitting on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And let me see here. You can link this with Luke 22. Luke 22, verses 29 and 30. So link verse 28, 1928. You can link it with Luke 22. Right. Verse 29 reads, And I appoint unto you a kingdom, as my Father hath appointed unto me, that ye may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Just going to some words he imparted unto them close to the time of his crucifixion. Just what we're getting to now, even in the Matthew gospel as well. Luke 22, 29 and 30, to link with Matthew 19, 28. So now check out verse 29 as well. It says, And every one that have forsaken houses or brethren or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. Right? So it's not to say necessarily that you just turn your back on family, things like that. It's just saying that if in your walk, it leads you to experience these things, right? Based on your circumstance, based on the choice of your family to either follow this truth or not, which with most of us, it's only going to be like it says in Jeremiah, one of a city, two of a family, right? Some of you may have two people in your family in the truth. I'm still the only one as far as I know, but it may end up being that way. but you don't have an entire family. You might just have 2 people that see it, and the rest don't. So this is gonna be what a lot of us go through, right?
The people, yeah.
Forsaken houses, brethren, even houses, right? As far as it may be a certain thing you might be tested on, some possession you may have that you may have to give up for a time. Not to say the Most High won't give it to you later, but it may just be something that you go through as a proving ground, right? To see if you have faith in Him first and foremost, and in His inheritance that's everlasting. That's why it says, forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, right? So we might have some sturdy resources, right? Like we say, money in the bank. Like the young man, right? Who was very sorrowful because he had many possessions. Right? You might have to relinquish some of that as part of your test, as part of your walk. But another brother or sister may have just as much or not as much, but then they may not be tested on that. It depends on your soul and what your attachment is or what your issue is. The Most High, whatever it is that is your temptation, whether it's doctrines, afflictions, lusts of whatever type, expect to be tested on that. You may look at someone else and go, Lord, you haven't tested this person over here with their possessions, because as far as you see, it may look like, oh yeah, they're just on easy street.
Right.
One, you don't know what they went through before they got there. Two, they may have had that already, but for them that may not be an issue for them losing. They may have that, but then their relationship with it is not the same as you, where you're like coveting after it. The Most High, I don't have to test that brother, sister on that thing. I got something else for them based on whatever their weakness is. You can't always look at it just 100% like, oh yeah, they're not going through that. I am. Most High knows all of us need, what temptations we need to overcome, and at what time to get us ready and suited for the kingdom. So we can't be as short-sighted as that. And we don't even think about another dynamic we don't think about is we've been here before. You don't know if somebody went through when they were here before in their pre-generation. You may see someone living now and you go, oh yeah, they had the breaks in life. But when they were here before and with their ancestors, they may have had the worst life. And they may have learned some lessons back then as far as humility, to where when they come back now, they're able to, have a certain level of success and wield it a certain way. And, not let it go to their head. So, that's another dynamic we don't look at. We just see somebody, like you were saying earlier, oh, that guy's rich, silver spoon, he's so entitled. He don't deserve that. It's like, who you say that? Maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe you don't know the full story. Maybe you don't know that brother, that sister's soul like the Most High does. So just keep that in mind and just focus on yourself. Work on you. If that person has a lot and they're not letting it go to their head and they're righteous, all power to them. Give them props. And even if they're not dealing with it the right way, edify that brother or sister, not from a place of jealousy, but have a place of making sure they have what matters most, which is their soul. And if they receive it, great. If not, you warn them. Keep it moving.
Oftentimes, we're looking at the individual riches, which is supposed to be the other way around. We gotta look at the individual mindset and how he got the riches, not the riches.
Right. Exactly.
If you're gonna be rich, look at Yahushua spirit and how he was doing. He's the richest. He's gonna inherit the kingdom. How he come to inherit the kingdom? You gotta look at what he was teaching. How you got it. Right. If somebody got a lot of money, don't go look at the money first.
Right.
Find out what his mindset, his process is. How you get, because if you get the mind, then you'll be able. That's why it says the scripture that says, "I can do all things through Christ." That's what it meant. I can do all things through Christ, because if you're in Christ's mindset, nothing is impossible.
Yeah. Right.
But don't look at the carnal things. You can get the carnal thing because that's the end result of what you process right there.
Right.
So that's why Yahushua can have all things, and he has the whole world, because he wants everything, because he processes the spirit. He got the spirit.
Right.
And I was going to say, you can work $100 million and somebody trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Mayweather, somebody trying to kill him.
Really?
Yeah, they tried to kill it.
Who is that?
Mayweather, you got $100 million, but it's people that don't like you. They couldn't get, they got a hit out on it.
They do?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
He
crapshoot.
got plenty of money, but his
He
attitude.
carry around with five bodyguards, man.
It's a
He
crapshoot.
got five body, but the principal point is,
It's still cute. Bodyguard ain't shot somebody who's getting killed.
And let me say this too, also,
Uh-huh.
you can find Israelites in everywhere, right? How come this guy, he's in this system, he happened to become, wealthy? How come somebody from another place happened to become wealthy? You in America, you wealthy. You in Jamaica, you can find somebody wealthy.
right.
So the key is how that person thinking, how he, he process things. That's how he got to where. That's why he can be broken and bounce right back up. And where you cannot bounce, you cannot do anything because you keep looking at the physical thing. So it's the mindset. Every Yahweh Shai mindset, we can do all things.
He carry
Come.
He carry that shit.
Yeah, it's bad. He carries money around,
He carries the money.
He can't full of money. Bags, whatever.
Hey, you wanna do something? He got the money right there and then.
That's right, he got it right there. But it's people that don't like his attitude.
A lot of people don't like his attitude.
His attitude. Somebody try-
huh? Only take one shot. You
That's
do it.
right. You can't come back from death.
How much money you
Right.
And at the same time, you got a lot of people who don't like him. He got a lot of people who like him too.
It's a
So
lot
that's
of people that like him.
that's the way,
But the ones
That's
that
the way the
you
world-
gotta
that's the
worry
way the
about
world
people
is.
that like you. You gotta worry about the people that don't. It ain't worth it. The people that like you, they gonna like you, dog.
got? Some people die for you.
Yeah, they like you. But
That don't mean that they
I
gonna
like you. I think you are.
Yeah, that don't mean they're gonna get in front of the bullet before you hit him, you know?
Come. So the link with 19 and 29, one more link before we close. Yeah. Mark chapter 10. Mark chapter 10, which is a similar instance when he's talking about I left everything. Mark chapter 10, verse 28 to 31. Mark chapter 10, 28 to 31. To link with Matthew 19, 29. It reads, And Peter began to say unto him, Lo, we have left all and have followed thee. And Yahushua answered and said, Verily I say unto you, there is no man that hath left house or brethren or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my sake and the gospel's. But he shall receive an hundredfold now in this time, houses and brethren and sisters and mothers and children and lands with persecutions, and in the world to come, eternal life. Right? So in this time, if you have those things, know that the persecutions will come, just as a proving ground. But if you endure that, if you have those things, if you don't have those things, if you endure it, you'll attain that life everlasting. That's what's key. So just comes with the territory. But as long as you have that knowledge, I always say that the knowledge is a nice foundation to say, okay, I understand the temptation, what's coming at me. At least then when it comes, not to say it'll be easy, but at least when it happens, I'll be ready. And I say, okay.
And I kind of handle my best ability.
Right. Now I have an idea of what's happening. Now I can endure the pain a lot easier. Right? Not easy like, oh, it's going to be easy. But at least you're aware of what you're dealing with. You know what I mean? As far as, okay, this is doctrine is coming at me. Or this is affliction coming at me. Or this is lust coming at me. When you can identify it, like the parable of the sower and the seed, now you can see, okay, this is what I'm holding on to. This is what I'm struggling with. This is what my brothers are struggling with too out in the world. But the heathen are struggling with. Understanding temptation is key. It's the key knowledge of the enemy.
So he was talking about the third generation of coming back and having these people.
The kingdom, whatever that is.
Is he talking about him coming back, or like the third generation gonna give him wife, kids, all this stuff all over again?
No, he's talking about in that life, they're going to have these things, but with persecutions. But in the life to come, talking about our life in the kingdom, whatever that may be, life everlasting.
Well, I know that part. But before that, he told me he was gonna have 100-fold. The sisters, mothers, children. So I'm thinking like in the third generation, you're gonna have all these people all over again. But then he said, and in the world will come eternal life. So you know you give him eternal life when the final world come down. But you know while he's still in this world, figure other thing.
Yeah, when it says 100-fold now in this time, it's just talking about those that are rich in this world now.
Right. So third generation, because he didn't have 100-fold then. If you forsake these people, then you're gonna get this 100-fold. We're talking about because we come back every third generation, right? Third and fourth generation.
I'm trying to understand what you're.
He's promising him that he will have 100-fold of these people that he forsake. Right?
No, he's pretty much saying, in this time, if he has the means, if he has that wealth, like that you know we're going to really get in the kingdom, he's going to have it with persecutions, meaning he's going to be tested on those things, just like the young man, right? For he had many possessions, he walked away sorrowful.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's what it's saying. So it's saying if you're gonna live it up now, just know that you're gonna face it with persecutions because it's the world. The world is evil. It's not like the kingdom, where people you're doing business with are in the same frame of mind. That's what the kingdom will be. We'll be dealing with each other according to the law, right? So you don't have to worry about someone's gonna come and break in my bank or something at night or something. You know what I mean? It won't be that kind of situation. That's what he means when he says, "Shall receive 100-fold now in this time." All these things, but know that it will come with persecutions or temptations. But in the life to come, everlasting life. So know that you're going to be tested in this time if you have a lot, even if you don't have. But here he's just talking about if you have a lot, just know it's going to come with persecutions.
Right.
So
that's the world we live in.
Right.
That's it's a given.
You're gonna go through trials and tribulations.
You're gonna go through. You have this thing right here. Somebody gonna try to get it from you.
Mhm.
You court, sue you, and then if not that, natural disaster gonna happen. Gonna fix some. So
Check that out.
all that is part of this world that we live in.
Right. Look at Job. Right. He experienced the different afflictions. Right. He had his stuff destroyed. Right. They got raided. His land with his cattle, personal loss, his family, children, even his own body, stricken with boils, right? So he dealt with that illness, right? So he was afflicted in those same types of ways, right? But he endured it. So he suffered it with persecutions. He was a wealthy man. He was righteous. So in the world to come, he's gonna have everlasting life, right?
Because we live in a world of positive and negative.
Mm-hmm.
So in the kingdom, it might be straight, us positive,
All positive.
right?
Productivity growth.
Right.
All positive.
All positive. In the positive and negative, that's the state of this world. It's necessary.
Right.
That's the way the Most High set it up.
The heathen will still go through it. They'll still, try to sin. The scriptures tell you they're gonna have some that's gonna try to rebel even in the kingdom, and this is gonna hurt them more. They're gonna have to humble themselves and go, "We got nothing better to do but serve the Israelites. Come on, let's go. The holy day is coming."
Right. But the positive will override any negativity.
Right.
That they trying to. But right now, it's like it's a balance, positive and negative.
It's standoff.
Yeah, we trying to stay on the right. They trying to pull us to the left.
Right. And right now, it looks like they're winning. They're ahead. They done laps around us on the track, which carnally speaking, they're ahead, but spiritually, they're bankrupt.
Those ones not gonna get the water, right? They're gonna stop the water from raining on them, right?
That's an example of what I'm talking about, right? You remember we read that during Tabernacles. Yeah. So you're gonna have some in the kingdom that are gonna I want to keep that holy day. It's all right. No rain. No rain. That means what? Your cattle don't drink. Your grass doesn't grow. Means you starve, and you experience drought at the same time. That's not pretty. And if you're a leader of that country, your people are gonna be like, "Yo, what's going on with the rain? We need something." Try to throw you out of office. So yes, you consider not getting rain in a certain place. It has a lot of ramifications to it. All right, so verse 30. But many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Right. So that's paramount on so many levels. But even on this level, we see with the heathen, they're the ones that are first, right? They're the first hired, last fired. The opposite, right? They're going to be last when Christ comes. Those of us who are last now, who are at the bottom now, we're going to be on the top in the kingdom. So it's going to be reversed. Even within Israel, right? You have the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes, right? Those that are considered, the upper echelon of the nations. I mean, of us. They're going to be considered the least in the kingdom versus those of us who are the downtrodden, the down low, the offscoring of the earth, right? Like they always talked about the disciples. They said, "Who's this guy? How's this guy? He never learned." When Peter and them were teaching, like, well, what school has he been to? He hasn't been to school. Like we say today, where's his degree at? You got a doctorate in theology? How you quoting the Bible like that? Oh, you a fisherman? You a fisherman gonna teach me? Right? Really? You're not qualified. Where's your certification? Right? So they're last now, right? It's like we're last, but we're going to be first going forward, right? We're the outcast of society, but we're going to be the superstars in the future. So they got their Hollywood Walk of Shame with their pentagrams, right? And everybody wants to be like, yes, I got my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and they got their handprint, right? I've made it. They don't realize that, that's nothing compared to what's going to happen in the kingdom. You're going to be on the bottom as opposed to the top.
Even spiritually, when we see that, like what happened in Starbucks, right? That's the reality of the world looking at us as the weakling, right? So we projected weak. So when you try to do anything, you get the slack. It's a spiritual thing. If the way you want to use the bathroom, they don't want to let you use the bathroom. They let somebody else that's a different color because that's the way society sees it. The person that did that, that's the way they see. They see us as the low bottom. No matter how we try to look nice.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what the scripture is talking about. Those that are very low will go very high.
Kind of, and just some links you can write down before we finish. You can just write down for that verse. Also in the Matthew chapter 20, in verse 16. Matthew 20 and 16. You also write down Mark chapter 10, verse 31. Also, you can write down Luke chapter 13 and verse 30. 30. First shall be last, last shall be first. Okay. So if we don't have any other questions or comments, we will conclude here. Second Maccabees chapter 13 and 14. I'm going to send an updated one to reflect the Leviticus, since we only did one chapter last time. But Second Maccabees chapters 13 and 14 is going to be the reading for next week. Make sure you read during the week so that you can ask any questions to myself and the other brothers, so we can be ready for the Sabbath and not clueless. I'm going to talk more to the bishop, Samak, about it. I think he said he wants to get back into doing Sabbath services where we have 2 up here, not just for holy days, but even do it for the Sabbath service, or do more of a rotation. I want to talk to him more just about incorporating what we used to do, where we would take turns each in the class to go over different sections of the Sabbath reading, and getting that on film possibly, or at least getting it on audio. But doing the rotation like we did before, where we look at however many men are in the class, and then we break it up into pieces for the reading. So we're all held a bit more accountable when it comes to reading during the week. But we'll provide more details on that in the near future. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And whatever works, keep working it. Okay, so that's it. Say Shar Shabbat. Thwat everybody for dialing in, listening in. Hopefully everybody was edified with the lesson today. If you missed it, you can always check it out on a stream later. If you were able to if you missed part of it, you can always rewind it and go back. So that's the blessing with the tech. But most sides will talk to everybody this upcoming week during the classes and the upcoming Sabbath service. So with that, we'll say Shalom and Ashar Shabbat. Enjoy the rest of your Sabbath day. Talk to you soon.
Started snoring, you was sleeping so good. You know what I mean?
Got another good.
It was okay, it's going to be quick to play. He's going to class after week.
Barakatah Yahweh by Shemi Hawashai, Shara Nathana'a Parya Gapan Thwada Aman. La Yahweh by Shemi Hawashai Av Yashra. English translation: Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. And my wife, Panyua Yerushalayim, stand to face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Babakushai, Shemai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yamyan, Aitha, Shalak, Ma'aka Allah, Waha Allahayim, Tazwadakim, La, Shamar Ayel, Barak, Rapah, Magan, Wa Chazayak, Banya, Yasha'ala, Washalak, Lanawa, Rabiim, Kakama, Rabiim, Da'if, Rabiim, Bayanah, Rabiim, Sabalanwa, Rabiim, Amawan, Rabiim, Aqua, Rabiim, Ahabiim, Rabiim, Haganah, Rochanaya, Wasalak, Kal, Katayamnawa, La Akim, Wa Akiwa, Wayasha'ala, Thamyad, Waiwalam, Basham, Yahawasha, Thawada, Aman. English translation, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please listen to us now. Right now, send Michael and the righteous powers to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins. For the brothers, sisters in Israel, always and forever, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. The Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha'ala, Wabat Yasaparim, Shema, Yashirale, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Echad. English translation, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us in Israel in the house of books. And then we said, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. So once again, Shalom Yasharala, Shah Shabbat. Most High's will, we'll be talking to you this upcoming week. Stay in the spirit.